Leviticus chapter 8, verses 1 to 36. I am reading from the New Revised Standard Version, the Green Bible. Verse 1. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, verse 2, take Aaron and his sons and him the vestments, the anointing oil, the bowl of sin offering, the 2 rams, the basket of unleavened bread. Verse 3, and assemble the whole congregation at the entrance of the tent of meeting. Verse 4, and Moses did as the Lord commanded him, when the congregation was assembled at the entrance of the tent of meeting. Verse 5, Moses said to the congregation, this is what the Lord has commanded to be done. Verse 6, then Moses brought Aaron and his sons forward and washed them with water. Verse 7, he put the tunic on him, fastened the sash around him, clothed him with a robe, and put the ephod on him. He then put the decorated band of ephod around him, tying the ephod to him with it. Verse 8, he placed the breastpiece on him, and in the breastpiece he put the Urim and the Thummim. Verse 9, and he set the turban in his head, and on the turban in front he set the golden ornament, the holy crown, as the Lord commanded Moses. Verse 10, then Moses took the anointing oil and anointed the tabernacle and all that was in it, and consecrated them. Verse 11, he sprinkled some of it on the altar 7 times, and anointed the altar and all his utensils and the basin and its base to consecrate them. Verse 12, he poured some of the anointing oil on Aaron's head and anointed him to consecrate him. Verse 13, and Moses brought forward Aaron's sons and clothed them with tunics and fastened sashes around them and tied headdresses on them, as the Lord commanded Moses. Verse 14, he led forward the bowl of sin offering, and Aaron and his sons laid their hands upon the head of the bowl of sin offering. Verse 15, and it was slaughtered. Moses took the blood with his finger, put some on each of the horns of the altar, purifying the altar. Then he poured out the blood at the base of the altar. Thus he consecrated it to make atonement for it. Verse 16, Moses took all the fat that was around the entrails and the appendage of the liver and the 2 kidneys with their fat, and turned them into smoke on the altar. Verse 17, the bowl itself, its skin and flesh and its dung, he burned with fire outside the camp, as the Lord commanded Moses. Verse 18, then he brought forward the ram of the burnt offering. Aaron and his sons laid their hands on the head of the ram. Verse 19, and it was slaughtered. Moses dashed the blood against all sides of the altar. Verse 20, the ram was cut into its parts, and Moses turned into smoke the head and the parts of the sweet. Verse 21, after the entrails and the legs were washed with water, Moses turned into smoke the whole ram on the altar. It was burnt offering for a pleasing odor and an offering by fire to the Lord, as the Lord commanded Moses. Verse 22, then he brought forward the second ram, the ram of ordination, and Aaron and his sons laid their hands on the head of the ram. Verse 23, and it was slaughtered. Moses took some of its blood and put it on the lobe of Aaron's right ear, and on the thumb of his right hand, and on the big toe of his right foot. Verse 24, after Aaron's son brought forward, Moses put some of the blood on the lobes of their right ears, and on the thumbs of their right hand, and on the big toes of their right feet. And Moses dashed the rest of the blood against all sides of the altar. Verse 25, he took the fat, the broad tail, all the fat that was around the entrails, the appendage of the liver, and the 2 kidneys with the fat and the right thigh. Verse 26, from the basket of unleavened bread that was before the Lord, he took 1 cake of unleavened bread, and 1 cake of bread with oil, and 1 wafer, and placed them on the fat and on the right thigh. Verse 27, he placed all this on the palms of Aaron and on the palms of his sons, and raised them as an elevation offering before the Lord. Verse 28, then Moses took them from their hands and turned them into smoke on the altar with the burnt offering. This was an ordination offering for a pleasing odor, an offering by fire to the Lord. Verse 29, Moses took the breast and raised it as an elevation offering before the Lord. It was Moses' portion of the ram of ordination, as the Lord's commanded Moses. Verse 30. Then Moses took some of the anointing oil and some of the blood that was on the altar and sprinkled them on Aaron and his vestments, and also on his sons and their vestments. Thus he considered Aaron and his vestments and also his sons and their vestments. Verse 31. And Moses said to Aaron and his sons, boil the flesh at the entrance of the tent of meeting and eat it there with the bread that is in the basket of ordination offerings, as I was commanded. Aaron and his sons shall eat it. Verse 32, and what remains of the flesh and the bread you shall burn with fire. Verse 33, you shall not go outside the entrance of the tent of meeting for the 7 days until the days when your period of ordination is completed, for it will take 7 days to ordain you. Verse 34, as has been done today, the Lord has commanded to be done to make atonement for you. Verse 35, you shall remain at the entrance of the tent of meeting day and night for 7 days, keeping the Lord's charge, so that you do not die, for so I am commanded. Verse 36, Aaron and his sons did all the things that the Lord commanded through Moses. Again, I'm reading from the New Revised Standard Version, the Green Bible, Leviticus chapter 8, verses 1 to 36. New Revised Standard Version, the Green Bible.